Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Automotive Megatrends. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Today we're going to be looking at how security mechanisms can protect cars against hackers. We are joined today by Martin Böhner, who is an automotive security expert from Elektrobit, and he's going to be presenting to you on automotive cybersecurity, after which there will be an opportunity to put some questions to him. So please make the most of this opportunity to put some challenging but answerable questions to him, and I'll hand the floor over to him shortly. I'm Martin Carl, I'm the editor of Automotive World and Automotive Megatrends magazine, and I will be chairing today's session. Martin Böhner will give his presentation. There will be slides available after the webinar. We'll send you an email to let you know how and when you can access those, as well as an on-demand recording of the webinar. Right, I'm going to hand over now to Martin for his presentation. He's going to speak for the next half an hour or 40 minutes or so. Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin. Welcome everybody to our webinar today, how security mechanisms can protect cars. So why are we doing that? I think we all see the news, we are aware of what's happening here. So we see two big trends. On the one hand side, we see connected cars, new opportunities for hackers. We saw a couple of messages in the news, especially in the last half year. And on the other hand, we saw or see news every day about autonomous driving, new concepts, what's going on. And if you combine, on the one hand side, the news about hacking cars and what's happening here, and autonomous driving on the other hand, we are reminded a little bit at the fairy tale. And question arises if in the future a scenario like that can be applied to cars. So is it possible to have something like autonomous theft available? So a hacker just sitting anywhere and stealing cars autonomously, letting all the cars come to the hacker without even bothering about breaking into them physically. Just, I want a new car, just come to me, and that's the big question, and one of the questions I would say about things, autonomous security here. And what we see is the big trend in the industry that we are more or less following with the automotive industry, other industries regarding security issues, hacking, incidents you see here. So we all know from servers, desktops, followed by mobile phones, what happened here over the last decades. And now with the latest news about hacked cars, we see suddenly cars and automotive industry following this trend. So and today, I will talk about what can we do about that. What can we do to protect our cars from being hacked? The car is a special thing in this constellation. So if we are talking about mobile phones, it's not nice if they are hacked. Maybe our data is stolen, privacy is not given anymore. But in the automotive industry or with cars, you really have a potentially very dangerous thing. And if this is hacked, and cars might be able to drive autonomously, then this is a very big danger to all of us. So today, what can we do? And I will give you an overview what is already done in the industry, what should be done in the future, and we will zoom out. We'll start at ECU, having a look at what can be done to protect a single ECU, and then zooming out to what has to be done to protect networks within cars, then the whole car, especially the connected car, and all the steps necessary. Yeah, we will have an overview at the end what is done on the different levels here. Starting with the ECU, one single ECU. So as you all know, a car consists of several ECUs connected to each other. At the moment, with a modern car, we are talking about up to 100 ECUs being connected and talking to each other. And if you just look at one of them, all the ECUs can be reprogrammed and updated. So what we need is a mechanism for a secure update, for a secure boot, like on the PC. So you can really ensure that what is running on the ECU is not modified. More and more hardware security modules are used on ECUs. So we get the support from the hardware to be used in software to secure our ECUs. And we'll come to that in more detail on the next slide. Also, what is widely used for a couple of years now is a functionality called software as a product. This can be compared to license keys on a PC. So you can use different versions of software, different functionality on the same hardware, depending on what you bought at the beginning when you bought your car, or what you bought in the aftermarket solutions, which kind of functionality or different updated versions you can use. For example, one of the simplest things to consider is different versions of map data for your navigation system, for example. But also different stages of engine power can be updated and so on. If you look if you go into more detail here, so what is done within a single ECU, you see different modules, especially different software and hardware modules being used in an ECU. Usually you have something like a bootloader, a flash loader, and a part where all the applications are running with the basic software. Today, usually based on the AUTOSAR standard. In our case, this is the autocore, so-called autocore. And to ensure that functionality in the ECU is not modified and only official software is running, you have a so-called secure boot mechanism. So a mechanism supported by the hardware that is possible to verify that the next stage that is booted on this ECU is not altered. And this is the secure boot box here. And we said every ECU can be updated nowadays. So usually before being able to modify an ECU in an official way, you have to authenticate against that ECU. And that is what the authentication module is for. In a modern ECU, asymmetric cryptography is used here, RSA-based, or usually RSA-based, maybe ECC-based, elliptic curve cryptography being used. And after that, so if you are allowed to modify an ECU and update it, for example, then the update is verified that you only make changes which are allowed and intended to this ECU. This is usually done by software signature verification, also usually based on asymmetric cryptography, RSA-based usually. So for all that, you need keys, and asymmetric keys are the public part of asymmetric keys are not so critical. You can store them inside your software as long as you make sure that they can't be replaced. And as soon as you start using symmetric keys for use cases, then those are way more critical because it would be a very important information to read these keys, and usually hardware security modules are used. So some part in the hardware supporting something like a secure storage, maybe secure or cryptography supported by the hardware directly can be used here. To make that available to software parts, the AUTOSAR specification, in this case modules in the autocore, provide access to this cryptographic functionality provided in hardware. And these cryptographic functions then can use keys being stored in the hardware, but the keys will never exit the hardware. So I said one of the functionalities being used is software as a product, really just on one ECU. So typically this would be an application similar to authentication and software signature verification. Applications using cryptography may be provided by the hardware or by software libraries, and implementing a use case for such functionality. If we then zoom out a little bit and look at an onboard security network, then we see additional functionalities. So now the idea is each and every ECU here implements some or all of the functionalities, the security functionalities I just showed for one ECU. And by combining and interconnecting ECUs, you're now able to realize more sophisticated use cases, security use cases here. So one of them would be theft protection. So anti-theft mechanisms based on different ECUs being paired to each other cryptographically. So if you steal one ECU from a car and the ECU does not find the counterpart it's known to, then it can't be used in another car, for example. If you're looking at communication between ECUs, anomaly and intrusion detection are things that are done today or that are investigated for future use cases. So you look who is communicating and who is sending which messages in your network, and you try to find out if there are anomalies. So suddenly an infotainment ECU is sending break commands or something like that. And in general, to protect data between ECUs so that it can't be altered, and that you can be sure as a receiving ECU that the data or the message is coming from the correct sending ECU, a mechanism called secure communication was standardized in the AUTOSAR gremium. So it ensures that only authenticated and messages are sent and the integrity is kept. If we look at that into more detail, so as I said, we have the same modules in the ECU we've seen before, some additional ones. So secure onboard communication, the SecOC module is standardized by AUTOSAR and can be used. It will also rely on cryptography and make use of, for example, cryptographic routines in hardware and use them via the CSM module, for example. On the application level, the functionalities are realized like theft protection, mileage protection, which is typically done to ensure that you can't alter the value of your car up or down depending on the divorce case, or if you want to sell it for a higher price. Intrusion detection is, as I said, so you can't add or remove ECUs or communication devices, and so you can detect that ECUs only send the commands they should. Okay, those are all mechanisms, especially anti-theft, mileage protection, secure onboard communication, that are widely used already today, and all the mechanisms for one ECU. Intrusion detection is a feature that is coming, so this will be seen in the future, probably in most cars being connected. One of the main drivers, so if we look at connected ECUs and saying, okay, now cars will be connected to the outside world and this is dangerous and we have to protect them, one could easily say, why don't we strictly separate the ECUs communicating to the outside world from the ones communicating to safety critical functionality like braking, steering, accelerating, and so on. One of the main drivers is these connections to other cars, to back-end services are more and more used for safety reasons. So you want HD maps with a very high resolution. You want cars communicating to each other if they detect an accident or a broken down car on the street around the corner. You want to warn other cars. You want to get warned. You want to detect pedestrians and so on. So all this information being exchanged is used for safety reasons, and especially if you have something like an automated braking, for example, emergency braking, things like that. So you will have a connection between receiving information from the outside world and really acting functionality in your car. And therefore, the solution is not so simple to just strictly physically separating these two worlds. So you will have to separate them logically to a certain degree, but they will be interconnected in some way. And this leads us to this statement, very official statement from Mr. Barroso, who says there is no safety without security and vice versa. So we will need security mechanisms to protect safety, and there's no way around that in the future. Oops, sorry. This was my mistake. Okay, and if we look at the security on a vehicle level, then we see that even if the onboard communication is secured and our ECUs are secured, we see that a modern car has a lot of different access points for official messages. So we see the whole part of car-to infrastructure, car-to-car communication, emergency call, which is mandatory now. Car-to-car and car-to infrastructure are coming more and more to cars. So when they all need wireless communication between cars. Also, everything for convenience. So Bluetooth connections, if you can connect your mobile phone to the car, you can remotely open your car with a wireless key, which is quite standard nowadays. You want to use the internet for map updates, for just local-based services, or just to surf in the web. All these functionalities need wireless access from the car to the outside world. And then more functionality like Wi-Fi hotspots, so that passengers can use the hotspot and being online connected with all the devices. Remotely controlling your air conditioning system, that you have a cooled or warmed up car whenever you start driving. Remote start of your car or remote opening of your car. So maybe also getting the latest position of your car if you can't remember where you parked it. But also things like tire pressure monitoring. They all use different wireless connections here. And this results in something like current vehicle systems architecture. So today you have usually a big gateway ECU in the car and several different bus systems connected to this gateway. CAN bus is a typical automotive bus. Usually you have several of those in the car. FlexRay buses, maybe Ethernet buses, LIN buses, and so on. And every functionality we saw before nowadays more or less has their own wireless access. So if you have a tire pressure sensor and all the other functionalities, they are usually coming with a specific ECU. So the functionality is located on one ECU, and often if this ECU needs wireless access, the wireless access is located on that ECU. And so this results in the picture shown here. You have various wireless connections basically on every subbus, and often the communication relationships between these ECUs are every ECU. Not every ECU talks to each other, but at least ECUs from each subbus talk to other ECUs on other subbuses. And that makes it very hard to secure such an architecture, because you will have to use all the security mechanisms on every ECU that has a wireless access. And we've seen attacks on tire pressure sensors, for example, in the past, more recently on in-vehicle infotainment systems or things like that. Usually driven by functionality and by the request to more computing power. Future vehicle systems architecture is proposed at the moment, and it results in something like these big circles, very powerful domain controllers being used, and having just lightweight sensors or less powerful ECUs underneath, and combining the information produced by these smaller ECUs. And this also results from a security point of view to consolidation about wireless access. So if you have such a powerful ECU, it is a lot easier to, or you can apply more powerful mechanisms to protect the wireless access in such a powerful ECU. And in the future systems architecture, you will see fewer wireless access points, at least. Probably functionalities using that these wireless accesses will increase, but you will see fewer points where such a wireless communication enters the vehicles. And here on a gateway is a typical place where you would place something like intrusion detection or anomaly detection, because here is the overview of which ECUs are communicating to other ECUs, and also about known and known communication relations between such domain controllers. So here you can check if this is okay or if it's not okay. This leads us to this concentration of of wireless accesses. Leads us to something like called smart antenna. This is exactly what was shown before. So combining different wireless accesses on a device which provides more than just one kind of wireless access. And in detail, this looks, for example, like the following. So I said you are able to secure it in a better way. Typically, you will have, if you're talking about Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and different other popular communication protocols, you will have drivers and communication stacks available on typical operating systems like Linux and others. So you will have such an operating system in your ECU where the different wireless connections come into the car and end into in the ECU. Here you combine the outside world with the in-vehicle secure communication or safe communication world, and this is why you have to secure or separate those two worlds in a very secure way, which typically leads to a hypervisor for secure separation being used that really ensures that functionality on this blue side cannot break out of this box and influence directly the AUTOSAR world, so the in-vehicle network world. And you can concentrate the different wireless accesses here and really ensure that they are separated from the in-vehicle network. It's also possible then to do something like threat monitoring, for example, or denial of service prevention. This might even lead to functionality that you can, shut down the wireless connection if you detect that a threat or that an attack is happening. Maybe restart it, connect it with a different IP, for example, to the outside world. And this is considered today. So if we combine all these mechanisms, this might lead to a secure vehicle. So all the outside connections are secured, the communication inside the car is secured, the single ECU is secure, but then we have the official communication channels between cars, the connected car. And we learned that we need that for safety, for autonomous driving, for convenience. And another big attack vector would be that if you can still, even if all these security mechanisms are in place, if you still find a flaw and you can never be sure about 100% secure car over time. This is just an illusion. So if you can find an attack on one car, maybe even connected to the cloud, then the big thing to avoid is that if you found one vulnerability, that you can attack a whole fleet of cars. So here, different research is ongoing, what you can do. So it's often aligned with, as I showed in the beginning, with the PC world. So which mechanisms to use to protect from such a scenario. So this is ongoing work at the moment. Of course, you can do the obvious things like use different keys, cryptographic keys, and different ECUs and different cars and so on. But this here really affects vulnerabilities found somewhere in the implementation, in the stack, in the protocols, and so on. So this is a big thing. Also, projects in the European Union are ongoing here at the moment. So for everything, so I said 100% secure car over time, and we are talking about long time security with cars, around 30 years or something like that, from production to end of life, from start of production to end of life. So to ensure security over time, over-the-air update functionality will be essential. You see that you already have the online connection. Of course, this is also a typical attack scenario to attack this onboard connection. But if you need the onboard connection anyway, you have to make sure that you are able to react to known attacks, and react in a faster way than just call back every car to the garage and make sure that it gets a software update maybe 1 year later or something like that. So you have to react fast in the future, and typical modules being used for such an over-the-air update functionality would be, of course, you need a secure channel to the backend. Maybe you will need that anyway for other functionality, and then you have to receive such update packages, and you have to store them anywhere. Maybe already check if they are the correct ones for your car, and after that, make sure that compatibility is still given after, before or after you will update those software. So you will need all kind of management functionality in the car, software update agents, remote diagnostics agents, so that you can report back which current software versions are installed in the car, which ones will be installed afterwards, if everything worked, maybe what to do if something went wrong, and so on. So, but the main thing here is you need functionality to update your car over time in the future, and to be fast with that. So, and a big issue here, of course, is not just with the update over the air, but also with the whole over the air functionality, communication to the back end, and so on, is the whole field of identity versus privacy. So, of course, everybody is wants data to be private. We don't want to be profiled and so on. But on the other hand, maybe we want to buy services with some kind of identity. So this will always be a challenge, like it is on the mobile phone at the moment. Identity versus privacy. For which data has to be provided and given to achieve which kind of services and functionality. Okay. So, to sum up, we can say security is necessary on all levels. So we have to secure a single ECU because it is updatable. We have to secure vehicles and communication between vehicles. Make sure that vulnerability of one vehicle cannot spread to each and every car, for example. And as soon as we're talking to backends, everything in the chain has to be secured. So we cannot say we secured our ECU, we are secure of, or we secured our vehicle and everything is fine, because we can impersonate, or the challenge is always that nobody can impersonate another official communication partner and and attack the vehicle, the fleet, or the single ECU. All that together is a big challenge. Definitely you are not alone here. So I see a lot of guys being part of this webinar, and a lot of interest is here. Many existing and approved mechanisms are available for parts. The big challenge is to secure everything, not to apply every mechanism to every ECU and so on, but really to keep the system secure. And Elektrobit is helping in that challenge for more than 15 years now. So we have a lot of experience in this area. Of course, the challenges are evolving, especially with everything being connected, autonomous driving and so on. And this leads to the last bullet point: security needs constant care. So we said monitoring is necessary. We have to make sure that we monitor what's going on in the communication networks in the car, but also in our networks connecting the fleet of cars, and to ensure that we can keep a car or a fleet of cars secure over time. Update over the air is key to react, and to be able to react in a timely manner. Thank you very much. If you want more information, please visit our website on the link given below. And now I'm looking forward to your questions.
Martin, thank you very much for your presentation. This is Martin. I'll be chairing the remainder of the session. If anybody would like to put a question to Martin Böhner, please do use the Q&A box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. We'll attempt to address as many relevant questions as possible during the time that remains. We have had some questions that have come in already, Martin, so I'll just start putting those to you. One I had already noted down whilst we were listening to your presentation. I wonder if you can just, from a supplier's perspective, just talk a little bit about whether you think the automotive industry, and I'm thinking specifically of the OEMs, are taking the cyber threat seriously enough.
I think a lot is going on here. And we see, as I said, we're doing that for more than 15 years now. So you see, this is also for the automotive industry. It's not a new thing. I think the big challenge here is suddenly the car opens up. So it's not the car as an environment anymore. It's a whole ecosystem of different players, different things being connected. The car just being part of the connected cloud. So a lot of challenges arise here, and OEMs are doing a lot. Of course, in security, you can always say, yeah, they can do more. But if you look at the life cycles and development cycles of cars, I think a lot is being done already.
Okay. Sorry, I had mute on there. I wonder if there's some thoughts you can put to us on, in the event that an alarm is raised that an attack is taking place, how would that be addressed? Who would receive the alarm? What would happen if a vehicle detected whilst it was driving that it were being attacked, or that a system wider than just the vehicle detected that there was an attack in place? What would happen in that case? Who would be informed? Who would rectify the problem, and how?
Oh, this is a very good question. I think this is not settled yet. This is in discussion at the moment. Probably, if you depending on which level you detect it. So if you detect it inside a car, there are different responses possible. So one, for example, would be to shut down the connection if you say it's a denial of service attack, or just someone trying to manipulate via the onboard communication. Of course, safety will always be top priority. So, and security helping to achieve safety here. So, the other thing would be if an OEM, for example, detects that cars in their fleet are being attacked in a massive way or large scale. So, I think the direction will be different, and this is currently discussed or sorted out. Who is monitoring what? Who's the owner of the data, and data being necessary to do such monitoring, and who has to react then? So it's an ongoing process at the moment.
I think one of the antivirus companies has a map, almost a live map on its website of attacks taking place, and it shows you where they're coming from and where they're going to. Whether I've understood that correctly or not, do you envisage something similar happening for the automotive industry, where there's almost a central monitoring system which controls what's going on and then can send out sort of live recovery as required?
In the future, this might be possible. Yeah. Yes, this is part of the monitoring that might be done in the future. Yes, or that probably will be done in the future. If you have the possibility to monitor it, of course, you're also required to do so, and this is a form of visualizing what's happening in your fleet. Yes.
Okay. Somebody's asked, which are the current network standards, either SAE or IEEE, that currently tackle issues of cybersecurity?
In the automotive, especially the AUTOSAR standard or covers with the secure onboard communication one part, but of course also automotive Ethernet is another big trend for future vehicle architectures. So and here discussion is not finished yet. So of course, automotive industry is looking to PCs and what's happening there, but on the other hand, defining own security solutions for typical automotive buses like CAN, FlexRay, and so on. Here, it was the automotive standard that that came up with secure onboard communication mechanisms.
Okay, that same person has asked whether you think deterministic Ethernet networks might make life easier.
I think this is it's possible, but I think this has yeah, wider or bigger influence on everything, and yeah, but it's possible from a security point of view. Yes. This
Okay.
would ease problems here. Mm-hmm.
An interesting
Or at least
question here.
allow, yeah,
Sorry.
allow more deterministic monitoring, of course.
Okay. There's an interesting question here, which I hope I understand correctly, so I hope it's relevant for the discussion. Does the presenter think the blockchain might have a role to play in vehicle security? For example, Bitcoin's blockchain is only fully decentralized today, or is the only fully decentralized paradigm today?
It's hard to answer. In general, I think, yeah, it depends on. Okay, here now I see the question. Yeah, yeah, it always depends on what you want to achieve with it. So it's you have to ensure functionality, and communication overhead is typically a big problem. So if you there were also discussions about other decentralized mechanisms in the past. So if some voting even for security or things like that. So it's always difficult if you fully rely on communication to be able to decide something. And here, I think it's maybe in the future, but at the moment, communication overhead is really a problem, and so I don't see it in the near future.
Okay. How do you envisage security mechanisms that might be installed onto vehicles affecting repairability and service centers where they need to access the ECUs in order to carry out repairs on the vehicle? And also, there's a linked question to this, which is that we've heard about insurance dongles being a particular threat because they can either open up an ECU to outside attack or in fact introduce an attack onto the ECU. But what about the threat from OBD2 plugins that might be used by the automotive service and repair industry?
Okay, there are two questions basically. So repairing, I think we see it already today. So there will be, or at the moment there are legal requirements. I especially know it from Germany, that every shop has to be able to service a car. Maybe even if they have to buy special equipment, in the end they should be able to service a car. Of course, security is always affecting that, and it's already rumored that very old cars will not be fixable or serviceable anymore in the future. So you won't see the old timer cars driving around, maybe because it's simply not possible to find the software anymore, especially if it's secured with certain cryptographic mechanisms and so on. So yes, this has of course an influence, and it's always the challenge, not only for repairing but also for even for producing cars. If you talk to OEMs, if they have to produce a car in the plant, even their security mechanisms are at first glance a problem. Of course, you need them, but they are a challenge how to deal with them. And for shops, or for garages, this will be similar. So maybe you always need an online connection to the OEM in the future to receive the authorization token to be able to, I don't know, repair or update an ECU, for example. So this would be number one. Regarding the OBD2 dongles, yeah, this is. I talked to some lawyers already, so nobody really could answer the questions if if my license is void after installing additional ECUs, and an OBD dongle is basically nothing else. So additional ECUs to the vehicle network, and we saw that those might really be number one attack devices, or being used to attack the vehicle network. As soon as you introduce secure onboard communication, for example, so really at first securing messages regarding integrity and authenticity, but maybe if you encrypt them in the future, those devices will have to change or being useless. And if you void your license, if you install such devices, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
It's a possibility.
One of the industries that grew up around the PC industry was obviously antivirus, and somebody's asked a very good question, almost an obvious question, whether we might need automotive antivirus for extra security on our cars. Is that something that you can envisage either the vehicle manufacturers insisting people install, or that might be available as an aftermarket option, or as some kind of recommended additional security to a vehicle?
I think we have a different situation here. So the engineering being done, also software engineering being done in the automotive industry, is a lot more rigid than maybe in the PC industry. So things or security mechanisms are done on different levels here, as shown, to ensure security. So it's a different ecosystem. Of course, maybe also antivirus software might run on the high-end ECUs for vehicle infotainment or things like that. So where you can install third-party apps or maybe your own software apps and things like that. For the safety-relevant parts of the car, I don't see that coming, because it's very time critical, very deterministic. So here, I hope we will not go into that direction.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about how much support might be provided to vehicles? You said that in the future we might not see old-timers on the road in the way that we do now. Now, I'm guessing you meant 20 years' time you might not see cars that are being built now as, being able to be repaired because of the software. How much support is expected of the suppliers of software, of the ECUs and so on, in order to enable cars to still be protected when there might be different versions of software that have sort of superseded many, many generations?
Again, a very good question. I think you can further discuss that lengthily, probably offline if I look at the time. But we are probably not talking about cars being produced now in 20 years. So suppliers of ECUs currently are really enforced to make sure that they can supply ECUs, software, and everything for a long time. But yes, this will be an issue. So it maybe cars produced 10 years ago might not be supported in 20 years. This is very well possible, and I think this is the one thing in the automotive industry, you have the problem that you can, in the PC industry, you exchange hardware regularly. So you will have more powerful hardware. And you can run the latest software versions, more secure operating systems, and so on. So this is not possible. So maybe it has to be a scenario in the future that, I don't know, the online connection of a very old car simply has to be turned off if it's not secure anymore. But I can't answer that for sure.
Sure, I understand. There seem to be three main ways of protecting a vehicle from external attack. That would be software on the car, hardware on the car, and protecting the cloud. Can you put some sort of scenarios together of an autonomous car driving along the road, receiving data from the outside, and how it would address that data, whether it would analyze the data on the car and decide whether it's safe for it to use? And also, and somebody's asked this very specific question, how does the car know that the sender, who it might trust, itself has not been attacked? And so therefore it might be receiving corrupted data from a trusted source.
Good question. This is exactly this. Security has to be applied on all levels, and you need the monitoring in the end. So you have to take constant care. It's this weakest part of the chain. So if you can impersonate a vehicle, an ECU, and send valid messages, of course you can maybe attack or at least send false information to other cars, and they will most probably say, this is valid information. This will be a challenge, and especially for that, something like this monitoring on not just on a car level, but on a fleet level or an overall level will become more and more important.
Okay.
So
thank you.
the short answer would be you cannot,
yes.
if you can attack a car or hack a car and impersonate this car and send false messages, another vehicle might not be able to or would verify it as correct messages. Then you need more data, statistical collection of data and so on to really detect it as false, not to trust.
Okay, I've got some other fairly specific questions here. I hope these are still appropriate. So for secure boot and for any other secure mechanism, are you relying on processor special modules and so and therefore the processor that the OEM is using?
I'm not sure if I get the real question behind that. Maybe you can hint me in the right direction. So, of course, if you, for secure boot and for other security mechanisms in hardware, the processor needs to have this support. So secure boot is something like a small outside of the software watchdog for booting. So if you boot and you need another instance that verifies if the next stage you're booting, or especially the first stage you're booting, is reliable, and then you can continue your chain of trust. So you will always need hardware support, and the OEM has to use hardware being capable of this special functionality. So is that what you asked?
Well, I think you certainly addressed secure boot there. So if there's any further interest in that question, then I'm sure that they can contact us separately. I think we've covered most of the information that we needed to cover, or rather, sorry, we addressed most of the questions that we were asked with the information that you gave us there. I hope that everybody's received the information they were looking for, and I'd like to thank Martin Böhner particularly for the presentation today, and also to Elektrobit for sponsoring today's webinar. As I said during the webinar and in the notes that I've been sending out, we will be making the slides available for you to download. We'll send you an email to let you know how and when you can access those, as well as an on-demand recording of the webinar today. Please do check out Elektrobit's website for more information on the services it provides, and also have a look at the Automotive Megatrends webinars page for future webinars coming up on our website. With that, I'd like to draw the session to a close. Thank you to everybody who joined us today and for everyone who sent in questions. And Martin, once again, thanks to you for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.